Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Seema, your host for today's webinar. It gives me immense pleasure welcoming you all to the live webinar on the theme of understanding and growing your business with technology. This webinar is hosted by Cyber Media Research in association with HP Inclusive. For the duration of presentations, all participants' line will be in listen-only mode. After the presentation, we will be having a question and answer session. Your feedback is very important for us. Please submit your feedback at the end of the webinar. Now I would like to hand over the floor to Mr. Anil Chopra, VP Research and Consulting, Cyber Media Research, who will share his insight on Be Unstoppable. Thank you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Seema, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, and thanks for joining us in today on this webinar. Before we actually get into the webinar, for the theme for today, let me just give you a quick overview on what this whole thing is all about, what Be Unstoppable is all about, and why we're doing this. As you might be wondering, many of you, that what exactly is this Be Unstoppable? So it will be good to kind of give that, because it's part of a much bigger initiative, than just this webinar, and this webinar is one part of that large initiative. To kind of, before I really get deep into what Be Unstoppable is all about, here's just, let's kind of first look at what's really happening in the market. And there's a lot of some good news in the market if you look at it, that, IT spending or tech spending is expected to see 6.7% growth. That is approximately $89 billion by this year. And the other thing is that a lot of the growth that is happening amongst companies is actually beyond metros, not just the metros in the country. In fact, world's top 10 fastest growing cities in terms of GDP from now till 2035 are all based out of India, according to a certain study. And of course, in a lot of these cities which are beyond the metros, there are a lot of SMEs who are actually contributing to this growth. And there are some 49 industry clusters which, all these, this growth can be summed up into. They are the growth hotspots. And they will contribute to about 77% of India's incremental GDP growth. Now, of course, in order to be able to achieve this kind of growth, these companies are going to face a lot of challenges. They'll be constrained in terms of, lack of the right skills, knowledge, financial advice, or, mentorship, the right kind of mentorship, resources, etc. And in order to kind of, enable them to ensure unstoppable growth, they need the right skills, knowledge, and mentorship so that they can continue, which is where we actually come in, which is where this whole initiative actually comes in. Be Unstoppable is actually, one part is that it's a digital knowledge platform. It's an online platform where we provide a lot of skills and learning related content which can be useful for different functions in the group, not just the IT folks, but beyond IT, CEOs, business heads, directors, or even functional heads, whether it's for HR heads and marketing heads and IT heads, of course. So it's multiple. It's meant for everybody. It's an online platform. Then, of course, there are webinars like this one. So while this webinar is around some of the essential technologies that you'll need for business growth, which will be presented by Vinod shortly, but there are many other webinars as well that we have done in the past on different topics beyond IT. The platform has many mentors and experts who are available to answer any queries that anybody has related to their area of expertise, area of operation. You can go to the platform, which I'll just explain shortly, and register there and find some of the mentors, and feel free to write to them, and we will make sure that we get the response from those mentors for your queries. Then, of course, there are events and workshops. There is rewards and recognition. Rewards and recognition is where we kind of recognize some of the high-growth SMEs in the country who actually done some exceptional work. So we'll be opening the nominations for that later so that we can recognize some of them. And, of course, we are not doing this alone. We have our main partner, HP, and then we have Tally, Freshworks, Kotak Mahindra Bank. They're all our partners who are going to be providing advice on different areas that they're from. So that's what, in a nutshell, the Be Unstoppable, platform is all about. And just to kind of give you an overview, I was talking about the webinars. So here are some of the webinars that we've already done in the past. This is just one. This is a partial list. So you'll notice that there is somebody who is a financial expert, a CA, who has talked about intricacies in GST and possible resolutions. Then there are, of course, different aspects of IT, whether it's IT as a service or security or office of the future, outsourcing, a whole different range of topics by different experts in those areas we've already covered as far as the webinars are concerned. And there are many more that we have done besides this, which I have not been able to cover, mention over here due to, lack of space, time, etc. So many webinars we have done. And as I mentioned, there are many events that we have done as a part of this initiative, where we have had some really renowned speakers come and talk at these sessions. There are CEOs of their companies, or directors or VCs. There's even a Padma Shri there. So this is just a small overview. If you'd like, you can go to the website and look at some of the videos where we have carried the presentations that they delivered around how do you really be unstoppable. How do you really kind of look at celebrating entrepreneurship? What sort of challenges you're likely to face as being an entrepreneur, and what should be you watch out for? They talk about their journey, how they have actually grown their business. So some very, very useful and exciting insights have been shared by these speakers who have across various cities. So far we have already done events in Delhi, Bombay, Coimbatore, Ahmedabad. And many of these speakers are CEOs from various companies, high growth companies, and they've shared their journeys. So I think that is what the kind of things that we have done as far as speakers are concerned, events are concerned. Now, just to kind of come back to look at, there's tremendous opportunity for everybody now, to kind of also follow some of these examples that these speakers have set in terms of growing their business, because there's a new opportunity in the market. There's a new digital ecosystem that has kind of come in. By the way, this is just a small overview of some of the types of content that we've already carried on this portal. Videos are there, ebooks are there, regular content, of course, is there. So some case studies are also there and all. So we'll be carrying a lot of these, content of different formats, not necessarily just text-based articles and blogs, but learning content that you can actually use to enhance your knowledge. So as I mentioned that, digital adoption is the digital ecosystem is really, really kind of driving the industries, and it's kind of growing. And India is actually one of the largest and the fastest growing markets for digital consumers. There's about 560 million internet subscribers that were there in 2018. And the Indian mobile data users, they consume about 8.3 GB of data each month on an average. We're actually an advanced digital economy that way. And we have about 1.2 billion mobile phone subscriptions, and people have already downloaded more than 12 billion apps in 2018, which basically means that we have a very, very vibrant digital ecosystem that can be actually leveraged. It's open for everybody to leverage, which is why we see so many great stories coming in of different types of innovations being brought out by different startups, and they kind of grow very rapidly. And it's amazing to see the kind of growth that they've achieved. The number of unicorns that we have seen as really, really growing every year after year, which actually shows how they're actually leveraging the digital ecosystem to grow their business. In fact, an analysis by McKinsey of about 17 mature and emerging economies finds that India is digitizing faster than any other country, according to the study. So there's just plenty of room to grow. And based on current trends, we estimate that India will increase the number of users, that net users, by about 40% to about 750 million or 800 million, and double the number of smartphones to between 650 to 700 million by in another 3 years from now. So that is the kind of growth that we are expecting in the digital ecosystem, and that can be leveraged by everybody. So digital is in fact going to be driving the industries. They're going to drive economic value. Digital applications will drive economic value across different industries. So core digital sectors, like IT and BPM, for instance, are likely to double their contribution to the GDP to 435 billion from the current 170. That is what some research companies actually say. And likewise, newly digitizing sectors, if you look at financial services or education, agriculture, retail, logistics, they all have potential to create immense incremental economic value by 2025. So that actually creates a lot of opportunity for just about every sector. And some statistics show that each sector has the potential to really grow considerably. And the figures are already, they've put up some figures for some of the sectors on the kind of economic value they'll create by 2025. So I think we're kind of in the best position to really kind of leverage this ecosystem and grow the business. With being IT folks, I think we are the best placed to kind of help our organizations leverage the new technologies to kind of help them grow. For those of you who would want to start up your own, that's also an immense opportunity today for companies to grow. So that's what I really wanted to talk about today. And here is the link to the portal, online portal. It's called unstoppablebiz.com. Please go ahead, feel free to go ahead there and register at the portal so that we can kind of share the latest information and updates with you on that portal itself. And I hope you find it really, really useful. Please do share your feedback so that we can continuously improve it. Thanks a lot for listening. That's it from my side. And it's now time for today's webinar, for which I'll hand it over to Seema. Thank you so much. Hello, Seema.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce you to the next speaker, Vinod Unni, MD Enterprise Infotech and Microsoft Regional Director, and he will share his insight on the understanding and growing your business with technology. Over to you, Mr. Unni.
Thanks, Seema. Welcome, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Vinod, and what we're going to talk about basically about understanding and growing your business with some technology features that you can use very, very easily in your organization. So before I get into the entire thing, so what I'm going to talk about is basically who am I, and then we'll talk about some of the essentials that are there, and which are basically modern productivity and business intelligence, and then delve slightly more deeper into that. So a quick introduction about myself. My name is Vinod. I run a technology consulting company called Enterprise Infotech in Delhi, Gurgaon, and it's been around for about 20 years. I also happen to be something called a Microsoft Regional Director. I'm not an employee of Microsoft. However, this is an honorary title that Microsoft gives to certain people in the field, whom they consider as experts. So there are about 120, 130 of us all around the world, and we work very, very closely with Microsoft in disseminating technology. We are not bound by the rules of that we have to only disseminate Microsoft technology since I'm not an employee, but we work very, very closely with their teams. So that's just a quick introduction about myself. So what we're going to talk about now is basically two sets of technologies which I think are essential for businesses to both understand how they themselves work as well as grow and scale up for the future. The two that I'll talk about, at least during this session, are modern productivity improvements and business intelligence. Now, in terms of modern productivity, what I would like to talk about modern productivity is that while most employees in an organization have many tools at their disposal and they work on those tools day in and day out, it is the responsibility of the organization to actually make sure that the employees are getting the latest as well as the best productivity tools, because at the end of the day, by giving them these tools, the advantage actually is given back to the organization itself. What happens with the modern productivity tools are that you enable communication amongst team members in many, many different forms. And we'll take a look at some of these as we go along. The real-time communication as well as collaboration while using technology can become much better for a quicker time to market. Now, how does that happen? I'll give you examples of actually projects that we've done and how it has helped out as we continue discussing. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip out of the presentation and show you a few demos of how this can actually work, right? Because of the time limitation, these demos will be very, very small, but they will at least demonstrate what is possible with it or not. Finally, what happens with using productivity tools and modern productivity tools is that you can enable a bunch of seamless workflows. So things happen automatically, and in today's world, with AI becoming part of a lot of different technologies, you can actually leverage the power of these AI platforms to go ahead and actually add workflows which automate systems very, very well. So let's talk about these modern productivity platforms or modern productivity suites that are available. In today's world, for all practical purposes, there are two major productivity suites that are there. One is the Microsoft Office 365, or as Microsoft is rebranding it to be, Microsoft 365. They're removing the word Office from this. Microsoft 365 actually contains Office 365, the entire cloud Azure platform, and other things like Intune and many other technologies which integrate well with each other. On the other end, you have the Google Productivity Suite, also known as G Suite, which also gives you a whole bunch of other technologies, and many of them have corresponding technologies or platforms with each other. So if you look at the apps that are there or services which are available, you have things like a word processor, spreadsheet, presentation, notes, database. Now, if you are using, let's say, for example, MS Word on your PCs, which is great. I mean, if you're using Office 2013, 2016, 2019, all that is great. But when you look at it as a productivity suite, there is a whole bunch of new things that comes into play, and we'll take a look at that as well. Over and above your basic set of productivity applications that are there, you also get, and again, this is in both platforms, whether it's Microsoft or Google, you get things like forms, email, contacts, chat, audio-video conferencing, a large storage space which synchronizes with devices and mobile applications and all of that, mobile access to all of this information, and a bunch of reports as well. In the case of Microsoft 365, you also get offline access. However, here's a small aside. You can also get offline access with Google Productivity Suite. So most of these applications and services that you get are basically meant for use when you are connected to the internet. But offline access also allows you to use these productivity suites when you are offline. However, certain things, like obviously you can't chat with other colleagues if you're offline, but many other things will continue to work quite well. So let's talk about some sample workflows, and I'll also talk about some sample places of real-world situations where these have actually gotten used quite well. Sample workflows could be normally when you open up MS Word and you start typing in, let's say, a business proposal, right? You are working on that all alone, and when you want input from a colleague or a junior or a senior, you basically email that the documents to them. They fill up their information and send it back to you, and then you incorporate it or change it the way that you wish to. With modern productivity suites, you can actually do away with this entire workflow and get a much more collaborative workflow where you and multiple other people can actually work on the same document at the same time, and you can see what the changes are being made, as well as have conversations within the document about whether you wish to make a change or add some text or whatever it is right there and then. So whether it is a word processing engine or whether it's a spreadsheet, you can have a collaborative experience of working with with documents very, very easily. Storing and sharing files has usually been via email, right? So people put it on email, send us attachments. Now, this again is a productivity killer, actually. Let's say I create a document and I send it to 5 people for their opinion. Now, I have the master document. Now, person 1 that I sent it to sends me the document back with some changes made in it, which means that I need to open up the master document, incorporate those changes, and save that master document as version 1.1. Meanwhile, somebody else sends me back certain other changes that he or she think of, which means that now I need to incorporate those changes and then save it as version 1.2. And remember that each person that I send it to originally is seeing my original version, not the version that has been changed by any of the other files. Now, here is where you can actually use the storage capabilities of product suites, whether it's Google Drive or whether it is OneDrive, SharePoint, in both the productivity suites. You can simply share the location of the document and everybody opens up the same document itself. So if you look at it, it's basically the similar type of thing as the first part, except that now it is using a storage system at the back. You can also create rules for notifying you if files are updated or added. Right? You can actually go ahead and do that so that as soon as somebody makes a change in a file or adds a file in a particular location, you get a notification by which you can go ahead and do certain things. You can, in fact, in modern productivity, you can even have actions set up so that the actions actually take place as soon as a file is added into a particular location. Note-taking becomes very, very easy. Let's say that in this particular meeting, you are taking notes. Normally, you would open up a notepad and start writing your notes down, or if you are more digital, you would open up a notepad on your PC or some kind of note-taking app on your phone and start taking notes. So think of a note-taking app which allows you to take notes and share it with all your colleagues at the same time so that any questions that they wish to ask, anything that they wish to do can be done at the same time. Yet another capability that is there in productivity suite is being able to provide the latest real-time information to all the members in your team, right? Whether it is about a latest business win, so you've got a great contract and you want everybody in your organization to come to know about celebration. So you put it up on a single place that automatically goes and tells everybody in your organization. They get notifications on their whatever device they are using at that point that here's a big win that we've got, and they can read more about it if they click the link, right? Or it could be about certain products and some product information. Your sales team has gone out. There is a change in the product description. They come to know about it instantly the moment they have entered a client's place or a place that they need to discuss this. And finally, of course, viewing dashboards of all this information, you can go ahead and see what are the different things that you can actually do. Now, these are some of the examples that I'm talking about. However, these are actually implemented. We have actually gone and implemented these in multiple, types of organizations. So we have law firms who are using the collaboration part very, very extensively with each other. So multiple lawyers working on a case. They are working, one is working on a tablet, one is working on the PC, and they're working on the same document together. And they're talking to each other on the document itself, and it just works out very, very well. There are steel manufacturers that we're working with, hospitals that are actually using this, and it works very, very well. And we have quantitative analysis of the productivity improvements that actually happened by not having the email attachment and sharing and those kind of things. The kind of benefits we're getting, actually we have time benefit analysis of all of this. So let's actually jump into a demo. I'm just going to show you a couple of small things because of lack of time. So first, let's talk about this real-time collaboration, and we'll then look at a task dashboard. So I'm going to jump out of this for now. What I actually have, and as you can see here, I basically have a MS Word document, right? So I've just put in some sample text here, and I've just created a sample document. Now, the thing is that this document is actually not stored on my machine. It's actually stored online. Now, I am using MS Word and I am using Office 365. However, you can also do the same thing with the Google Suite as well, right? So it works absolutely fine. So this is the document that I'm working with, sample number 1 topics, and you will see that this is the file that I actually have. Now, while I can start typing something out, what I want to do is right on top, you'll see that my name actually shows up here. me typing, but some I can see this little marker. I hope you can see this. There's a little marker here which is, and hopefully you're seeing this change. I am actually working on two different PCs right now to try and show you this demo. Right, so this John Doe keeps jumping around, and actually I can start typing stuff. This I'm typing on a different machine, and I can see that John Doe is actually typing out some stuff here, and it it immediately appears to me here as well. Now, what I can go ahead and do as John Doe somewhere else is that I can go ahead and let's say I add a comment. So I'm doing this on a separate machine. So give me a second while I do this. So right, so I'm basically making some changes on the system, on a different system, and what I will actually go ahead and see is that you notice that I suddenly got this Vinod, try this out. Right now, if I want somebody to see what I am working on, I can actually go and do something like this. I can actually put John, right, and I can remove his name. Why don't you spell check? Right. So I can actually go ahead and add comments and stuff like that very, very nicely. And it works quite well. And John Doe will be able to see that and reply to it if possible. Right? So it works quite nicely in terms of collaboration and working with each other. Now, this is real-time collaboration. You can actually have n number of people working on the document at the same time, and it works absolutely great. Right? So this is one example of collaboration. You will also see that it maintains versions. So if I click a version history, I think you will basically be able to see what are the different versions that got created, and this all is done by the system itself. So productivity, in terms of productivity, it actually helps out quite a bit because at any point of time, I can actually go back to a version which I was more comfortable with. This is something that you really won't get when you're working in a non-productivity suite based system. So if you're working with MS Word separately, or if you're working with the Google Word processor as a single instance, it just doesn't work. But if you're working with G Suite or you're working with Office 365 or Microsoft 365, it works absolutely great. The other thing that I will talk about is the way of being able to manage projects or tasks within your organization. Now, using something like project managing software, of course, is the best way to go, but project management software, like MS Project and others, are fairly complex applications. So you need to be really aware of how to use applications like MS Project, and not everybody is able to work with that in the best possible way. So again, what Office 365 has is the capability of working with, in this case, Office 365, again, you have the equivalent in Google, is the way of working with something called Planner. Right? So this is a way of working with plans. What I've done is I've created a project inside this application. So this is one project for demo. Within I've created categories called requirements, planning, implementation, delivery, and support. And I have invited John Doe into this. What I can do is I can go ahead and add tasks. I already have added some tasks. Like, for example, create test list. I have put a backdate for this, so as you can see, this shows up as red because these are overdue. And it also shows who is responsible for this. Under planning, I have kept it for myself, so the flowchart and why the intent proposal is in the future, and so on and so forth. Right? I can keep adding more. For example, I can add delivery. I can add test delivery set a due date again in the future, and John Doe click on add up, and it's as simple as that. John Doe gets an email, and he can actually go ahead and see what the task is. And I can, of course, add more details to this by typing in some description if I wish to. Now, the advantage is that at any point of time, I can see the status of my project in many different ways. For example, right now, I'm seeing it by planning implementation. But I can also see it by assigned to remote and what are the tasks assigned to remote. I can also see by the progress, right? Now, this is about what's started. So I can, of course, move it into progress or incomplete if I want to. Like today, late, today, this week, next week, right? So it's automatically done. It gives you different views of the system or of the project plan. I can also view dashboard of this. So here's a nice little dashboard which shows me what is the status. So I can see there are 2 late and there are so many which have not started. I also can see by the category. So I can see there are 2 which are requirements which are late and the rest which are late. And also by person, right? So there are, again, 2 and 2 for John Doe. So quick way of being able to plan out stuff. Now, all of these are integrated with each other. So for example, anything that I have in the board is actually sending out an email which is part of Office 365 or in the case of Google Suite using Gmail. When I go ahead and add an attachment to this, for example, if I add a file here because that's required for the information, that will get stored on SharePoint. In the case of Google Suite, it will get stored on Google Drive, and the link will be sent to the user. So it's all very, very well integrated. All of these tasks which I have added will show up in the Outlook, the tasks list that is there in Outlook. It will also show up there. So I can actually go and tick that off very nicely, and it will disappear from there as well. So it works out quite well in that way. If you notice, one of them suddenly disappeared because on the other machine I went to John Doe and I clicked it completed. I will just show that to you again. I will gather client requirements. I have clicked that, and within a few seconds, this one will also go away. And as you can see, that one also went down. Doing that on a different machine, John Doe is logged in there, and he goes and completes that, and immediately I get to see this information. Right. So that's one way of working with a productivity suite, which allows you to expand and use the tools that you have been given in a much, much better way. There are many such tools, again, in both the suites that are possible, and you should explore and start using them within your team, within your organization. Let's move on. Let's talk about business intelligence as the next thing. Business intelligence is a fairly large and complex topic. So let me quickly talk you through what is business intelligence. Right? So business intelligence, when it's defined, is defined like this. It's defined as a broad category of application programs and technologies for gathering, storing, analyzing, and providing access to data to help enterprise users make better business decisions. Right? And it includes an activity of decision support, querying, up reporting, and so on and so forth. So this is a very complex definition. Right? It may not be very easily understandable about what is business intelligence. So I've made it a little simpler. Right? That's the so to put it a slightly simpler way, it is application of knowledge derived from analyzing organization's data to affect a positive outcome. Basically, making your business better by analyzing the data that is there and getting some knowledge out of it. To put it even more simpler, I'll just put it in a diagram. Right? You have some raw data. You can take that raw data. You get some raw information out of it. That information becomes knowledge. Knowledge becomes intelligence, and intelligence leads to better decisions. And that is what business intelligence is, right? So taking raw data that you might be having in your organization and taking it all the way up to intelligence and business decisions. Now, how do you do that? So how do you apply business intelligence? BI is basically, what is it used for? It's you understand the health of the organization. How are you doing? You know, what are the bottlenecks that your organization have? Get a shared view of information from other locations or business drivers that you might have. And what is the shared view? I'll come to. And of course, reduce the time to taking a decision, right? That will help your business grow in a much better way. Now, obviously, the goal is to impact the bottom line of your organization and get a competitive advantage. Now, how do you
Hello. Speaker got disconnected. We are just connecting him back. Just wait for some time.
Yeah.
You can continue.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully all of you can hear me again. All right. So going ahead. So what I was talking about is the data systems may not be optimized for queries and may not contain the data that is required. Also, employees might not have the skills or tools or the permissions to actually go ahead and query these systems in a proper way. Now, what one can go ahead and do is work with a business intelligence system. Now, how do you work with a BI system? So just a diagrammatic view of this entire system is that we pick up information from different data sources, put into a staging area where we clean and standardize the data, and then move it into something called a data warehouse, where we can actually go ahead and start doing the business intelligence querying and analysis. Now, there are many, many tools in the market that allow you to go ahead and do this, right? So one of the things to remember about BI is that while pivot tables in Excel are an entry point into doing business intelligence, these are not business intelligence by themselves. BI allows you to tabulate data from multiple sources and cross-analyze between data sources, right? So which means that if I have data coming from Tally and ERP and from a HR system, the data can be standardized and collated in such a way that they can actually go ahead and be cross-analyzed. So I can look at sales data versus HR data and be able to find a correlation between all of this. You can, of course, create reports and dashboards and custom applications, plus use artificial intelligence-generated insights. So things which you might, as a business owner or a business decision maker, might not have thought of even asking, the AI will be able to pull out that kind of information and show that to you. So outliers in a particular system will be able to be brought out and shown to you so that you can take decisions based on that, and of course the ability to use natural language processing, so NLP, for doing any kind of ad hoc queries that you might like to do. So let me quickly do a small demo of BI. For this particular demo, I am using something called Power BI, which is part again of the Office 365 suite, but there are many others that are also available. Right, so here's Power BI, and basically I have a couple of dashboards that I have created. Now, these are two separate dashboards. So one is a dashboard on human resource information, and I also have a IT spend dashboard that is there. So this gives you a quick one screen view of the information very, very well. What I also have are more detailed reports. So I can click on any of the items in the dashboard and go to a more detailed report. So here are this is the HR dashboard, and I'm able to go ahead and look at a lot of different information. Now, for all practical purposes, this looks like a set of charts that are there, which is very nice. They are very nice and colorful. But the advantage comes of being able to do cross-analysis and multiple levels of cross-analysis that are there. For example, these charts are entirely interactive charts. So, for example, I can go and say, okay, in terms of new hires, I want to see just the female new hire list. So I just click on the pie chart, the female part, and all the other charts reflect the choice that I have taken by modifying the view. So as you can see, the highlighted view in all of them changes, right? So these get highlighted. As you can see, all these the line and the bar graphs have all gotten changed, and the highlights in the bars have changed based on the choice that I've made. Now, here is something that I can see what are the new hire counts, and I can see that for females, this is the average across 1 year, and this is average across all the different regions that are there. Now, let's say that I want to see the what is the hiring rate for females in different regions. So I can actually go ahead and do this. That I click, I go and click Control, and I can go and click on Midwest. Now, this is showing me. Now, if you notice, the chart has again changed. Now, this is showing me female for Midwest, and you can see that the higher rate has actually changed. I can similarly unselect this and go and select for West, and you can see compared to the North or the Midwest that I chosen earlier, the West actually has a good higher rate of females. It's going up. But if I choose something like the Northwest, you can see it's actually going down. Now, this is information that you are able to see because you are able to do cross-analysis of this information in a much, much better manner than what you could do if
आप जिस व्यक्ति से बात कर रहे हैं, उन्होंने आपके कॉल को होल्ड पर रखा है। कृपया लाइन पर बने रहिए। The person you are speaking with has put your call on hold. Please stay on the line. आप जिस व्यक्ति से बात कर रहे हैं, उन्होंने आपके कॉल को होल्ड पर रखा है। कृपया लाइन पर बने रहिए। The person you are speaking with has put your call on hold. Please stay on the line. आप जिस व्यक्ति से बात कर रहे हैं, उन्होंने आपके कॉल को होल्ड पर रखा है। कृपया लाइन पर बने रहिए। The person you are speaking with has put your call on hold.
Okay, hopefully I'm back.
Yes, sir.
So when I look at things like Latin America, you will see that the entire graph is completely the opposite of what Canada was showing you. So infrastructure spends in Latin America are very, very low, whereas manufacturing is much higher. So by looking and doing cross-analysis of information across your organization, whether it is HR or any of the IT silos or any of the silos of data that you have, they become very, very easy to go ahead and look at and do analysis of. Now, one last thing that I'm going to show you in business intelligence is the ability to go ahead and do natural language processing. Natural language processing is where you can actually use information on asking questions of this entire thing. So I can actually go and say things like, in English, how many employees are, and you can already see the answer is 1.29 million employees are female. right? And immediately the answer comes down 590.64K. Now, you can actually go ahead and make it even more who are above the age of, have resigned, and so on and so on. You can actually go and ask questions and get the answer much, much easier. I can say something like show distribution of employees by gender, right? It even understood my spelling mistake, so I wrote gender, but it is able to understand my spelling mistake and still go ahead and show the distribution of employees by gender, and it works quite well. So you can actually go ahead and start using natural language processing because the system actually understands what your data means now. And that's what business intelligence is all about, right? Where, as I said, you have raw data sitting in your silos, and you've pulled it out and brought it to a place where the data has actually become intelligent, and the system is able to give you answers to what you are looking for. There are other things that you can do, but due to lack of time, I'm not actually going ahead and doing that. But you can actually go and say things like, show me, do quick insights. So it will actually go ahead. This might take some time, so I may not be able to show you the demo. But this will actually go and show me outliers of data, based on what is there, and bring out certain things that you might not even have thought of in terms of the information that might be there. So this might take some time, so I'm not going to show you that. All right, so I think we're at the end of the session. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll try and answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Unni, for sharing those thoughtful insights. Now, dear delegates, it's time to take your queries. Please post your queries over the phone, over the chat, select all panelists, and send it to us. We have a couple of questions coming offline, and I would ask Mr. Chopra from CMR to take these questions. Over to you, Mr. Chopra.
Lord Seema. Thanks, Vinod, for that presentation and some really interesting demos. For the attendees, my apologies for the short glitches that we kind of faced in between. So we did try to take care of those. Vinod, so I have a couple of questions that I've received already separately, which is about, how do you really users benefit by the company moving to a productivity suite like the one that you were showing today?
Right. So the advantage of for users is that their own workflows become much easier to work with. Right. So in a couple of organizations that we are working with, when we move them to a productivity suite, what we've noticed is that because these are all the productivity suites that we talk about today in the modern world are all cloud-based. So everybody gets access to the information that they need, at their fingertips. So if somebody's out for a meeting or a conference and they need to basically look up some information which is stored as part of their organization, productivity suites data, they have that access on their mobile phones. Plus, because of the ability to go ahead and create fairly complex workflows very easily. So you can create these complex workflows, but they are done without even writing a single program. They can be done visually. So users can set up rules and workflows, which allows them to do a lot of automation by themselves without having to call in the IT team or calling a developer to do it. So they can actually go ahead and do that, quite easily. So it increases their productivity, and they get a lot of more free time in that case.
Okay, so I think somebody is already asking about the ROI. So what is the kind of, how much ROI can we get by the switchover?
ROI to switch over to the productivity suite, right? I assume this means to the productivity suite. In terms of ROI, well, as I said, so you will get ROI in two different ways. Most productivity suites will actually go ahead and charge you on a kind of a subscription model, which means that you are actually paying the subscription. You're not paying for your servers upfront. You're not paying for the software license upfront. So you are actually paying a monthly subscription. So that's one kind of ROI that you get. You don't have to do a 3-year hardware refresh or anything like that. So you're just paying the same cost across, and it becomes predictable. The second ROI that you're getting is in terms of the productivity increase that you get by having all of these tools available for your users to go ahead and use. right? So it actually allows you. Okay, there's one question on Kubernetes that's not really part of this session. That's more of a cloud and containers and stuff like that. So I think that will be out of scope for this particular session, but we could take that up in a later later session.
Okay. Now, what is the path to move from, say, Excel pivot tables to BI? Because you showed some really good BI demos using, I think, Power BI. What is the path to you?
So the path would be, Power BI was just an example, but there are many other tools as well which allow you to do all of this. In fact, Excel itself, if you're using the latest version of Excel and there are certain add-ins from Microsoft itself, they allow you to do a lot of something called Power Query and Power Mapping and stuff like that, which allow you to do, again, step one of business intelligence. But if you want to move on to pure business intelligence, then you will have to get into a BI solution as well. For example, you'll have to get into Power BI or Teradata or any one of the other ones that are there. There are so many of them, SSAS. So all of these can actually go ahead and do that.
I think there is one question which says, can we manage overtime also? I don't know whether that has to do with any of your
overtime as in time of employees when they're staying back in office. Well, that would be, yeah, I mean, so okay, at least I'm not aware of this in G Suite, but it is there in Office 365 where we have an app in Office 365 called Shifts. So you can actually go ahead and add some shifts for each member of your team, and you can set up overtime costing and overtime for them. So there is an ability to do that. I have never used it in terms of the in G Suite. Sorry, I've never used it in G Suite, but I'm not aware of that. But in Office 365, yes, you have the capability of setting up shifts for your employees. If that is the question, that is the meaning of the question. If you mean over time, as in can you analyze data over time, yes, that is also possible, but that's a business intelligence question, so two different answers.
Yeah. So maybe it is about overtime of employees and being able to gauge that. I don't know, maybe there's a further question on that. If the person who has kind of mentioned this can maybe, put another question. If, this answer is not clear and he meant to say something else.
Right.
We will for that, and also we will, wait for some more questions to come in from the users. Forward. So, attendees, if you have further questions, please post them now on the chat. We still have a few minutes left for the webinar time to get over. So, we'll just wait for a few minutes, maybe 10 seconds or 15 seconds. So, let's see if any questions come. Okay, so there is a question about, can we manage IT inventory, audit your stock, etc.?
Yes. So, in fact, IT inventory, again, this is actually a business intelligence question. So if you, there are tools that will allow you to manage your inventory, and there are many tools in the market that will allow you to do that. What you can do is analyze your inventory very well in something like Power BI or any of the other tools, which allows you to see what is your, the kind of IT investments versus refresh rate versus many other things that are possible. Let me see if I can show you that. No, I don't have it in this particular one. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have it here, but otherwise I could have shown you that in this. So you can actually go ahead and do that. So where you see, you can set up categories like servers and laptops and information licenses, software licenses and all of that, and then keep storing that in your, somewhere in your database and have your business intelligence actually go and churn through it and be able to give you reports of how well you're using your IT inventory and how effectively is that IT inventory being used. So yes, so the answer for that is, you can absolutely go ahead and do that. But for auditing your inventory, that is something that you will need to use there are tons of applications that will go ahead and do that. So if you have a network, just set up that application on your network and it will go and search it out for you.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. So do we have any more questions? Maybe we'll wait for a few seconds again for the next question to pop up.
Sure.
So, Seema, just see if there are any more questions that have come to you directly that you could maybe post to us?
Uh, Not exactly, sir. I'm not having any indication of questions.
A few more seconds for people to kind of thoughts and see if there are any questions that they have that they'd like to ask. It looks like there are no more questions coming in from the attendees, Vinod.
Okay.
A lot for sharing that presentation and some of those demos. They're quite useful.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry for the slight disconnection in the middle.
Yeah, we apologize for the inconvenience caused to all the attendees due to the small glitch and the disconnection. But we do hope that you found the webinar useful. If you do have any questions later on, please feel free to write to us, and we will try and get them answered from Vinod for all of you. So with that, we come to the end of the webinar today. Thanks a lot for sparing your valuable time to be with us today. Thanks, and see you again very soon.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anil Chopra. Thank you, Mr. Vinod Uni. On behalf of HP Inclusive and CMR, I would like to thank all the participants for joining the webinar. We hope it has been a useful time spent with us. Thank you so much.